Here, we do see a lot of nonprofits raising a lot of money quickly with text messaging. So we're going to show you the blueprint for how they're approaching text messaging, how they're getting started, what makes a difference in terms of raising more money, time of the day, other factors, mixing messages, all those good things, because it's kind of tough to find text message examples out there for nonprofits. They're not as easy to find as say signing up for different email lists. So we're going to show you the blueprint. We're going to show you what's working. We're going to show you the data behind it and give you the information you need to learn how to get started with text messaging and how to start raising a good amount of money right out of the gate.
Sweet.
All right, so what we're going to cover from Dana's agenda that she sent out via email. So we're going to look at why SMS is a very effective tool and perhaps the most effective engagement tool compared to other digital channels. We're going to look at a common question we get. We got this in the Sustainer Slack group last week, was how to collect phone numbers and grow a compliant SMS list. So we will go through that. I'm sure you all have questions about that. So we have a lot of great information and examples of how other organizations have done it. We'll show you some best practices for sending messages, and then we'll look at 4 essential types of SMS messages. Spoiler, it's not all about fundraising. There are other types of messages that help with donor retention that actually help fundraise as well. So we'll talk about the different types of messages that we see nonprofits sending and having success with. Real quick about Tatango, we've been around for, I think, 18 years now, and our platform is really built for fundraising. So there's a lot of tools on donor segmentation, automation, personalization. It works a lot like email, just it's text messaging, and I'll show you in a little bit about how the engagement there is so much higher than other digital channels. We are permission-based, so I will, again, talk about how to grow a compliant list. And we do have integrations with a lot of popular nonprofit CRMs, donation, event platforms, and beyond that, even we have integrations via Zapier and other ways to integrate. So a lot of our customers don't have to export a list and import a list. Every time they want to send a text message, they can use information that automatically flows in that they can use to segment and personalize, much like emails. All right, so why is SMS the most effective donor engagement tool? So this is my own stat. I worked on the Blackbaud Digital Services team for 15 years and worked with a lot of organizations on their email program, email marketing. What I found is when the email deliverability rules changed about 6-7 years ago, and nonprofits were advised to start suppressing those who are not opening their emails on a regular basis. If somebody hadn't opened an email in the last 6 months or 12 months, they were advised to remove them from the list to improve email deliverability. And what I found is that took about half of a nonprofit's email list out of play. They had to suppress it to make sure the folks who were opening emails continued to get it. And then the last time that nonprofit open rates were reliable a few years ago before the Apple updates, about 4 to 5 people did not open emails. So what I found when I was working with different email programs for nonprofits is probably about 90% of people in their CRM, their donors, were not actually seeing the email because they had to be suppressed up front, or they weren't opening or receiving the email. So it's a small percentage that actually do see the email. And you all know from the industry reports and retention rate and how it's been declining the last 6-7 years, and it continues to go down, that it's hard to get these thank yous and report backs types of communications in front of your donors after they do give. And it's important, obviously, after somebody asks, to thank them and then report back again before you ask them to make another gift. But if these communications are sometimes being sent via channels like email, where the message may not get seen, then a donor may get asked to make a gift. Maybe they get the email that thanks them, but maybe they don't see the email that reports back on the impact of the gift. And so they're asked again before they understand how their gift made an impact, and that can affect retention rates. So texting is not here to replace email, but it works really well to complement email. And the reason that it does is that it has a 99% open rate, and the messages reach donors quickly. So within 3 minutes of receiving a message, 90% of people open up a text message. As Dana said a little bit earlier, if you look at your phones, you probably don't have a lot of unread text messages. Most of the time when we get a text, we open them within the first few minutes. So here's an example. I mentioned email and text work really well together. Here's an example of a campaign where it was the last day of a match campaign. And this is typical in what we see. I received the email on the left in the morning, and I received the text message on the right in the later afternoon. And you notice they both look pretty similar. Text messaging does not have to be just a sentence of plain text. This is an example of an MMS text where you can include an image or a short video or animation. And so it looks just like the email, similar image, you have the contact card, the logo of the organization, similar language used. And so we get this question quite a bit. When do I send an email? When do I send a text? A lot of nonprofits will send them on the same day or within a day of each other, that they will overlap because they know they need to get the message and the campaign in front of their donors multiple times before they're actually going to respond to it. And M&R a couple of years ago came out with this stat looking at their customers. They found when you add a text messaging program to an existing email program, it can increase the amount of revenue raised per person by 30%. So some data behind using email and text together, how it can boost revenue and the impact that it has on raising more money.
Can I ask you a quick, and this
Yeah.
came up in the chat, a tracking question. So follow me here as my brain goes into like some nitty gritty. If there's people who consistently aren't opening emails, but they're opening your text messages, you're able to track that in Tatango, I'm assuming, on who has like open rates over time?
We can track click-through rates. We can track the behavior, the engagement there. So we can filter by people and segment by people who've clicked on a text message over the last 6 months, or somebody who clicked on a specific message. If you sent a Giving Tuesday text in the morning, somebody clicked on it, but they didn't donate it, we can text them again later in the day to ask them to donate.
Okay, so what I'm picturing in my mind is then that's a way, if it's integrated with the CRM, that you could mark them as like, don't email this person, like text them instead if that's the way that they're preferring to communicate. And then that
Yeah.
would increase your open rates in your emails.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
And on the other side of it too, you can track who actually, if you're using certain platforms like Fundraise Up or other platforms, you can track who donated. So you can suppress out of the text those who gave this morning or gave in the last week. So you're not texting folks who recently gave to your organization.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons that as of a couple of years ago, 4 to 5 nonprofits either had started a texting program or planned to start one. The power of email and text messaging together to lift both channels and improve engagement and make sure you're getting your campaigns in front of your donors is really a powerful way to make sure that you are reaching them during critical moments and throughout the year. So this is an example from our text messaging insight report. We often get the question, well, how much can I expect to raise from text messaging in the first year? This is an example from data pulled from our text messaging insight report, which I'm going to give you a QR code on how to download that later in the webinar, where we looked at what percentage of online donations came from text messaging for the organizations in that study. What we found is that text messaging brought in 4.5 of online donations for the organizations in that report when we looked at over 200 million text messages. So this would be an example if an organization, say, raises about $5 million annually, a $5 million revenue organization, probably about 12% of that would be online donations from different reports out there over the years. And so if you take 4.5% of $600,000 raised online, that comes out to about $27,000 in new donations that you would receive. And we often get the question too, does it cannibalize your email list? And we find that that is not the case. And often a lot of folks that are not on the email list are folks that you have phone numbers for that you can reach out to via text. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But as a starting point, if you're $5 million organization based on the report, based on the industry data, we'd estimate about $27,000 in new donations for the first year based on your online revenue annually.
I want to give a little stat to this too on not necessarily like net new, but on retention. So I was working with an organization and we implemented a texting campaign for their monthly donors, and their churn rate went down 50%. They received thousands of text messages back in like positive response, and they had a really low email open rate, like 23%. And so people were just not getting the emails. And so they weren't seeing the impact. And it was probably just because they were hitting spam folders or emails that they don't use anymore, unfortunately, that they gave when they donated. And so it was like a whole new way for them to communicate. So, and I honestly think text messaging is going to become like email eventually in our sector, where it's going we all do email because you kind of all have to do email, and I feel like texting is going to be like that too. Tom, I did want to acknowledge his question. We are going to show lots of examples of text messages, but he's asking about how does this appear non-automated and more personalized. I mean, Mike, you can craft whatever language you want, right? It could say, "Hey, Mike, would love to show this updated blog with you. How's your day been?" Right? Like you can make it feel as conversational as you want for whatever your brand voice is.
Exactly. And you can personalize it much like email, where obviously you can personalize it by first name, but you may personalize it by their last gift amount. Thank you for your recent gift of $100. You may mark that they're a sustainer. All of those elements, even if you're sending to thousands or tens of thousands of people, personalizing it like you do with email can help it to feel a little more personal, that you understand that somebody is a sustainer, or that they gave recently, or you know what their name is, or something else about them that you personalize the text with.
Cool.
All right, so question we get a lot is how to collect donor phone numbers and how to launch a program. We're going to show you a blueprint for how to launch the program, but first I want to talk a little bit about how nonprofits get started with their text messaging list. And the good news is you probably already have a list partially in your CRM that you can use. So nonprofits that have collected phone numbers in a transaction, or somebody has given you their phone numbers, you can reach out to those people via text, something called the Telephone Communication Protection Act, the TCPA. Within it, it says that nonprofits are a little bit different from for-profits. Nonprofits need express consent to be able to text somebody, which is what happens when somebody gives you their phone number. That's different from for-profits, which need express written consent. So in your CRM, any phone numbers that you have that people have given to you, you can reach out to those folks about your text messaging program. We find about 60 to 80% of the phone numbers in a CRM of folks that have given you their phone number are going to be mobile numbers that stay on your list. So that is how a lot of organizations will get started with an initial list, whereas you don't have to start with zero and start building up the list from scratch all the time. A lot of organizations already have phone numbers in their CRM that they've been given. Moving forward after that, you want to ask people to opt in. You want to include it on your donation form, your event registration form, other places where you're promoting your texting program. You want to give them the choice. But before you had a texting program, people have given you their phone number, and nonprofits are able to reach out to those folks initially when they're starting a text messaging program. So I want to pause there. I'm sure we have some questions that I'm happy to answer.
Jessica, any suggestions for when you aren't sure if they are home or cell numbers?
Yeah, great question. So you don't have to worry about that. So platforms like ours will take the list. We will look at who is a mobile number and who is a landline, and we'll differentiate it for you so you're not trying to text to landlines. We know which ones are mobile numbers and which ones are landlines.
Perfect. One question was, our text list is not just for donors, but also for volunteers, workshop attendees, etc. Is there a way to organize and segment out without going over some capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can bring in as many numbers as you have. We can bring in the segments with those of volunteers, different donor segments, non-donors, event participants, all of those, much like an email platform. You can bring them in and then segment accordingly based on the audience.
Perfect. Specifically, is there a dedicated text number when I can interact back and forth with supporters?
Mhm. Yeah, so when you start texting, there's a couple of different ways. You can either have a 10-digit number or a 5 or 6-digit number, but that is your number that you use. That is for your organization. And the advantage to that is that the supporters are going to get messages from you from that number consistently. So they'll see previous messages that you sent when they receive a new text message from you. And the other advantage is when you use one number, you can have a contact card that they save that has the name
Yes.
of your organization, your logo. So instead of a text coming from a random 10-digit number or 5 or 6-digit number, it'll say it's from your organization, and it'll have their logo if they save your contact card. So it certainly is a really good idea to just have one number that you text from, so there's consistency and your supporters can see the previous messages that you've sent.
So This is a funny example for anybody, but anyone else Scandal fan with Kerry Washington when that was like back on the air?
I do
So
remember it.
Kerry Washington has a text messaging campaign with supporters that she launched, I think probably on her Instagram, and I totally went for it. And so to this day, I'll receive messages and I have her saved as my contact as Kerry Washington. So I feel very cool when I get text messages from her. So yes, I see so many people are also fans. Yes. Okay. So she did it in a really clever way. Do you have example language for the express consent ask in the initial text that's sent out to your list?
I will show an example coming up here in the webinar. So we're
Okay.
in a little bit, we will see exactly how to do that.
Okay. Perfect. And then I think we're getting into some nuances of specific. Let's see. Is the texting done via desktop, laptop, or all mobile based?
So it could be any of those. It can be it's through a platform. So it's I know sometimes we talk with organizations and their executive director or their annual fund manager is texting from their personal number. So it's not through that number. It's through a platform, much like an email platform where you would log into it and you would send out through that platform.
Right. So they can be on their computer doing all of this.
Right.
Yes. Awesome. Um, I know there's some Canada specific questions. How do you avoid from looking like your text is a fraud text?
Yeah, really good question. I think that because there is suspicion at times for text messages, the more you can, and I'll show you some examples here, the more you can personalize your initial text to your supporters and recognize that somebody is a donor, a volunteer, a sustainer, an event participant, personalize it with their name. The more you know about the organization, if I get a text from an organization that I've given to that they mention something specific about me and call me by name. And there's other ways too. The links can be branded to your organization. So it's instead of using a bit.ly, which can seem a little bit suspicious and have lower click-through rates, you can have a branded subdomain that you can use for your links that helps to build credibility.
Awesome. Okay. And I think some of these questions we'll answer when you share some examples. So let's go ahead and jump forward and then we'll make sure I'll keep an eye on. I am looking at all of your questions, I promise.
Okay. So in addition to that, there's other ways to grow the list too, because much like email, you'll have some people who will opt out. Some phone numbers will go bad, but it's a much lower number that go bad than email addresses. So you want to be growing your list along the way as well. Here's an example of a dedicated email that one of our customers sent to their email list, and 5% of their email list signed up for text messaging just from this one dedicated email. So that's a good way to do it. Social posts are another way. And then including language on your donation forms and your email sign up forms and your event forms like this, where there's specific language that the phone carriers require that you include, and you give people the option to sign up for text messaging moving forward. This is a one of the lower hanging pieces of fruit in the many ways that you can grow your list. Certainly adding it to all your web forms, having a dedicated email, some social posts periodically. Those are great ways to keep your list growing and counter any unsubscribes that you're going to receive. Okay. So how to launch a program and how to pilot a program and get out of the gate. This is an example I'll show you of Holt International, and this is a blueprint that a lot of our customers follow when they start off their texting program. So they look through their CRM, they found the phone numbers that people had given to them, and they reached out, and they did this in December. This was the first text they sent on the left, where there was language in addition to what's here at the bottom. It said stop to end, so people could opt out if they did not want to receive text anymore. They included an additional sentence besides that, where it said, if you do not want to receive these messages, just reply stop. But this is a typical launch message where they're reaching out to people, letting them know about their text messaging program. And then after that, it's very important to, I would say, not follow up with a fundraising text after that. The second text they sent was on the right. So they had a welcome text, they had an engagement text, and this was all done within December before they started asking for donations. And you see the welcome text, kind of like your email, sets the expectation of what type of text somebody is going to receive, how often they're going to hear from you. Having an image or your organization's logo is a great idea. And in that initial message, they also had a link, you can't see it, but to their contact card. So when somebody clicked on that contact card, they could save it. and now the number appears as from Holt International with their logo there. So these were the first 2 texts they sent. This is pretty typical what a lot of nonprofits do out of the gate to the phone numbers they already have in their CRM. And then after that, you can start to send fundraising messages. And that's what Holt did in late December. This is one of the messages here on the right they sent on December
Quick
30th.
pause.
Yeah, question.
I noticed on their first text, and Jenny had this same question, they used the short code 40108. Is there a pro versus con to doing the 10-digit number versus a short code?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the size of the organization, the size of the program. For some medium to larger organizations, a short code may be better for them. The 10-digit number may be better for local organizations, smaller organizations. There's a little more speed that comes with using a short code and getting text out faster. So depending on the size of your list and your phone numbers initially, a short code may be better. A 10-digit number may be better for some organizations. So we're happy to talk through that with organizations and look at go through the advantages of each and figure out which one is best.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And so then they moved to their fundraising appeal at the end of December, and this was one of the messages here on the right of their fundraising year-end campaign. And so once you get by the first couple of messages with the welcome message, and then after that an engagement message, then you can roll them into your regular cadence of fundraising messages or cultivation, engagement messages. And so this was all done within a 3-week period where the welcome message, engagement, and then fundraising message. Okay. What Holt found too, and Holt I worked with back in my Blackbaud days, so I knew they were very data driven, and they really looked into not only how the texts perform in that channel, but they looked at the impact on other channels. And what they had been experiencing that year-end season is for their Giving Tuesday and most of their December online giving, they were slightly down year over year. But when they started to introduce text messaging and asking for donations via text in late December, online giving turned around for that year-end giving season and spiked up. And while they were down a little bit most of Giving Tuesday and most of December 29th to 31st, they were up year over year almost 300% in their online giving. And much of their year-end campaign was the same across digital channels. The only difference really was that they added text messaging.
Wow. Okay, a couple clarifying questions. On the first welcome message that they send from Sarah, is that initial message sent when any new number is added, like it automatically goes out to people?
Great question. So yeah, a lot of organizations do that. They launch this to their initial numbers, but then they set it within the platform to automate for anybody new who signs up on a donation form or text in a keyword that they automatically get this welcome message before they start receiving other messages.
Cool. Okay. So that was kind of like Carrie Ann had a similar, is it sent to people who've been in their database for a long time? So yes, initially, right? If you just be starting, then you would introduce them by sending this initial like welcome text for what they're going to be prepared to see from you via text messaging.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then anybody who's new, then you should also set that up for them to get it before they get other texts.
Okay. And then Olivia just asked an interesting question. Said these are very long, expensive texts. How often do you send them?
Yeah, so the MMS text all cost the same, whether it is 3 sentences or 10 sentences. So it doesn't vary by the length of the text. There is a different cost, or we use credits at Tatango. So for SMS versus MMS, there is a different number of credits that are used. But if you're sending an MMS like these text here with images, they can be a few sentences, or they can be as long as you want them to be. There's no additional cost as the text keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
Awesome. Sweet.
All right. Anything else before we move on to some best practices for sending messages?
No, let's do it. And then I know some people have been tinkering, and I've been sending some sneak peeks if you've been catching in the chat about affordability and the brand new package. So I don't know if you want to tease that a little bit and talk about it, and then we can go into maybe some of the best practices.
Yeah, we do. So we have 2 new packages that we're rolling out. They're going to be available till the end of June, and I'll just tease the price points here. They start at $199 and $399 per month, so much lower price points than previously. So we will have more information on this at the end of the webinar. But this is an easy way for organizations to get started out of the gate, to be able to just start a program and reach out to folks, and then send on a regular basis and start to see the results that come in from texting.
Yes, the $199 is 2,000 message credits. It's the full software setup support, like, you don't get limited to
Right.
anything. It
Yep.
just lets you test out sending this number of messages, and then $399 is 5,000 messages, so you can divvy that up over the months of what you wanna test it. I put the link here if anybody wants to check it out, but I think this is great to see examples of messages that are fundraising and then not fundraising specific. And all of your questions, I am moving to a Q&A to make sure that I answer these.
Sounds good. All right, so some best practices, and this was pulled from our text messaging insight report that I mentioned a little bit earlier, that the first report of nonprofit text messaging that came out that looked at ROI stats like conversion rate, average gift. Previously, there were some stats on click-through rates and opt-outs, but it was tough for nonprofits to understand what is the ROI. If I send a text, what's the conversion rate? What is the average gift amount? So we looked at 200 million text, over 5.4 million that was raised in 2023. And so I'm going to pull some data. Here's some of the main takeaways from it. 5 main takeaways from that report. One is that, and this may surprise you because we talked to some nonprofits that are sending maybe 3 or 4 texts per year. But what we found is that nonprofits send on average 46 texts annually. So it's almost 1 a week, although it's heavier in November and December, where it's about 3 times as high in those months. But 2 to 3 texts most of the year are going out from nonprofits, and it's a good mix of fundraising and non-fundraising. It's about half and half of the texts that are sent out are fundraising, and the other half is non-fundraising. I mentioned a little bit earlier that 4.5% of online revenue is raised from text messages. So that's an easy way to take whatever you raise annually online. 4.5% of that is a good starting point for what you would look to expect to raise in your first year from text messaging. We also found one of the more interesting takeaways was that only 25%, there was a 25% higher conversion rate outside of year end than at year end. So January to October, 25% higher conversion rate, meaning that, to Dana's point a little bit earlier, there's less competition right now for nonprofit texting. Not every organization is using it. It's not as crowded of a channel. So when organizations reach out throughout the year for match campaigns, summer campaigns, any big campaigns or giving days that they have, it's not a crowded channel. So that January to October actually had a higher conversion rate than year end. And probably the biggest takeaway is that evenings are higher in terms of conversion rate, 37% higher conversion rate when you send between 6 to 9 p.m.
That's when I'm sitting there watching my Bachelor finale
Yeah.
last night.
Yep. Yep. Lots of
Multitasking. I'm like,
commercials.
anybody else watch the Bachelor
Uh-huh.
finale or just me? Actually, it was 2 nights ago, but I watched it a day later. This is great. I have lots of questions around one that I wanted to make sure is answered from Olivia. Are there options to save multiple text templates on the platform in addition to writing custom text options? And is there a
Yeah,
limit?
there is. So a lot of organizations do that. They save a template as a draft, and then they can just copy it to send it out whenever they're ready. For example, emergency organizations that respond to disasters, they may have a template ready to go. They may just need to change the first sentence, copy it, send it out, and it's easy to get it out. But you can do that for any type of message.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else in the chat?
I mean, yes, but keep going and
Okay.
we'll come back to it.
So best practice for texting is to really mix your messages. When you start out texting, your fundraising text initially are likely going to perform really well. If you, like any channel though, if you only send fundraising appeals time after time after time, then your donors and constituents are going to expect that when they hear from you, it's just to ask for a donation. So the best programs that we have, and this is an example of Boys Town, they rolled out their program about 1.5 years ago. Their first year, they sent half and half. They sent half appeals and they sent half non-fundraising, things like donor surveys that you see here, cultivation messages. So it's really important to mix your messages and not just send fundraising asks. Also, we see about half and half SMS and MMS. So SMS is 150 characters, the example on the left. It's about a sentence, and you can have a link within there. MMS The examples on the right, where it can have an image, animation, or a short video, can be up to 5,000 characters. So about half and half throughout the year, we see organizations using both. Oftentimes, it's good to start with an MMS in your campaign and then send a follow-up text as SMS. And this is an anatomy of one of our higher performing messages that we saw at year end. It looks a lot like email, and a lot of what works on other channels, your segmentation, your content, your strategy, that carries over and works really well on text messaging too. So we see that this one was time sensitive. They had multimedia animation, a countdown clock, sort of like you may use on your emails or donation forms. They talk about a problem to solve and they bold that and they highlight it. And then after the problem, they have a link where the problem is explained and the link is included to make a donation.
Very
All right, so
cool.
before we go on to the 4 essential types of SMS messages, any additional questions?
Yes, from Tristan. Is it possible to set up texting automation flows so when people first opt in to ensure they move through like a couple week comms journey?
Yeah, it's a great idea. And a lot of organizations do that when they have a new donor, and they'll take them through, much like an email new donor welcome series. They'll do the same thing with text messaging. I'll show you an example here coming up of a sustainer welcome message when somebody becomes a sustainer for the first time. You can do it that way if somebody becomes a volunteer, either through a web form or sometimes texting a keyword. Somebody may text volunteer to your number that you use for texting, and then that can trigger a whole series to onboard them for volunteering. So either through web forms or through keywords, something like event or volunteer or give, you can trigger a whole series of automated messages through Tatango that can be set up to go right away, and then 7 days later, 14 days later, and on, and build it out as much as you want to.
Super cool. Rachel and Patricia both had similar questions. If it's a smaller shop, is there a minimum like size of donor base that would be needed for to have good ROI or to see the program pay for itself, become profitable, kind of like all around ROI conversations?
Yeah, great question. I think the place to start is to look at the number of phone numbers you have in your CRM, and that'll give you an idea of what the initial list size will be. It'll probably be in that 60 to 80% range of those numbers will be mobile numbers of people that will stay on your texting program. So I would start there. We certainly see organizations that have bigger lists and some organizations that have smaller lists, and both of those types of organizations raise money well. Depending on who those phone numbers are, if they're donors, constituents, you can
Yeah.
segment the messages based on that. But I think the starting point is whatever number of phone numbers you have in the CRM, and then figuring out a percentage of those are going to be folks that'll be on your list, and then going from there.
I'm going through this process myself and looking at the phone numbers that exist. I mean, I'm not a nonprofit, so I don't fall under the same law that you all do, but then setting up the forms and having the right messaging. I think something that is wonderful is not just looking at new net, maybe revenue growth, but is also a reduction in churn. So that's my message earlier is how, if you do have pre setting up text messaging, what is your current churn rate? Let's just say for monthly giving. Once you install, let's just say you're going to start testing this with your monthly donors or a recurring donors, do you see a difference in churn rate, and how does that equate to more revenue that you're not losing, which before you were? So there's multiple ways to kind of look at this to make sure that your data is set up beforehand and then looking after the fact, and also just overall donor engagement. Are your one-time donors now giving more often, more frequently? Are you seeing a higher conversion rate of one-time to monthly because they're getting it in a text format instead of email? So I think there's a lot of stats that you could track, to be able, and maybe ask ChatGPT to come up with them for you, about what's really important to you. But I would give yourself some base data metrics, and maybe you guys even have some great resources for that. And then after the fact, give it. I mean, what's a good, Mike, if somebody's going to start out with one of these beginner plans, how many messages do you think you should need to send to be able to actually do some reporting, or time in between? Like 6 months? 3 months? 6 months?
Yeah, I think I think it's good to see throughout the entire year, and especially get to the year end, because we see so much money raised at year end. But I think if you have bigger campaigns or fundraising campaigns coming up, that's a good place to target and have a message or two before that, and then reach out for that particular campaign, and sort of overlapping what you do with email and taking the content and just repurposing it and putting it into a text, and mirroring your digital campaigns and adding text to it, but eventually working up to year end as well, because year end is such a powerful time on Giving Tuesday in late December, where it's so cluttered and so busy, and the texts are going to cut through the clutter and cut through what the inbox clutter and the other digital channels, and be able to get in front of your donors. And we saw a lot of organizations that were first time programs at year end this year have really, really strong results because they were reaching out for the first time during those big campaign times.
Cool. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. All right, so the first type of message, and this is really important. I think the best programs that we see of nonprofit texting programs are ones that send these types of impact updates. One of the best programs that I've come across in the last 2-3 years out of our customer base is International Medical Corps, and they approach text messaging starting a program because they wanted to steward their donor base. Their goal was to add value to donors, not just ask for donations. And by taking this approach, when they do ask for donations, they've had really good results. But these are a couple examples of their report back text that they've sent to their donors over the past year or two. 2023 impact update, a year after the war in Ukraine started, an impact update on people who gave there. And what they've started to see is that they have some deeper lapse donors that are only on their text list, that is the only way they reach them. They don't have email consent, or they've opted out of email. They may not have an address for them. And so some of their deeper lapse donors are only hearing from them via text messaging. And they've started to reactivate some of their deeper lapse donors by taking this approach of using texting to send cultivation stewardship type messages like you see here. I mentioned a little bit earlier that when somebody makes a donation, after you ask them, it's important to thank them and then to report back. So here is that flow, what it looks like via text messaging, and you know everybody's going to receive these messages. So 99% open rate with text messaging. Your donor, the 3 important steps of asking, thanking, and reporting back, if you can send those via text, then folks are going to know the impact of the gifts they made, or they're going to hear a story about the gifts that they made earlier before they're asked to make another donation. And I think this can be really an underutilized or under the radar channel for donor stewardship and improving retention, because you know the messages are going to get in front of your donors.
Absolutely.
All right, and then here's a for all the folks in the Sustainer Slack group, or just who have started a Sustainer program, who work with Dana and the team. I love this example. So when somebody's payment fails or their monthly gift stops, you know that a text message is going to reach them, that they're going to see it. So Holt International has been doing this for a couple years now, where when somebody has a monthly gift that the payment fails, they send out this text to them to let them know how to start up their payment again and to continue their monthly gift. They also do it when a credit card is coming up as expired. So the month before a credit card expires, they reach out to those folks to let them know to update their credit card. So I think text messaging this is such a small audience that is going to happen every month, but this is so valuable, and the ROI is so high on this, to be able to keep your sustainers even when their payment fails.
Yeah, it's a great use case, because that's one of the main reasons that credit cards just expiring. They didn't mean to stop giving. A lot of times they just, like, if the credits are expiring, then likelihood that their email wasn't reaching the donor either to update it.
Yep. Second type of message is engagement messages. So these are a couple examples of not fundraising text and not reporting back on the impact of gifts, but just engaging. Sometimes it'll be a survey. Sometimes it'll be asking people to take a poll. These engagement texts are really good to mix in, and we often see them done on awareness days. So the great thing about text messaging is, because people get the text within a few minutes and they open them within a few minutes of being received, for these timely awareness days, when there's a moment where it's Mother's Day, International Women's Day, some other awareness day that you want to reach them on that day, texting is a great way to do that, whether it's a fundraising text or just to engage them and celebrate and let them know that they're appreciated. like this text in the middle for Mother's Day.
Awesome. Shelly had a really interesting question about, do you all text only to donors who give you permission to text them? So I think that is where it comes into play, where if you have their number, there's always the stop to opt out, number one, if they don't want them anymore. And then two, outside of the original list that you might have, when you are building your list, yes, they specifically have to check that box that they're okay with receiving messages from you, but still in their welcome text, and they can say stop. So it's all permission based.
Right, right. Yep. After you have your initial list that you reach out to ongoing, you should give donors the choice. Now that you have a texting program, put it on your forms. Let them choose whether they want to receive text or not.
Awesome. Mercy is asking, any launch ideas to get your donors to sign up?
Well, I would take the numbers you have already, folks that have given them the numbers to you, and start there. But then I would also send a dedicated email. I would put it on your web forms. And those are good ways to get several streams of new subscribers coming in and to supplement the list that you initially have. Those are a few of the popular ways that we see.
She's also asking, is it safe to go to social media to advertise it?
Yes, absolutely. I would do post maybe once a quarter. Certainly, when you're rolling out the program, you can do it a little bit more often. But absolutely, I would just put it into part of your social media content calendar.
Oh, I love this, Kathy. I'm planning to use social media to invite supporters to sign up to get exclusive content.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yep.
I love that. That's a great idea. And I think so from a social media standpoint, can people text a code to a number to get on the list? Is that another way that they can do it
They
too?
can. Yep. It's another way you can do that
Okay.
at events. You can do that signage at your office or different locations. So you can certainly do that. Text join to whatever your number is, and that's an easy way for them to get on the list too.
Perfect. Laura's asking about Tatango credits. Do they expire? Do they roll over? How does that work?
Yeah, so we'll get into that in towards the end here.
Okay.
So with a couple of the new packages, you do get either 2,000 or 5,000 credits per month. So we'll get into that a little bit more and how those differ versus the ongoing subscription too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. I wanted to just show this engagement example because we do see that even when you're not asking for donations, organizations will
Yeah.
sometimes still raise a good amount of money from text messaging. So this is an example from Boys Town at the end of the year where the text was just to send an e-card and there was no direct ask within there. But after somebody sent the e-card, they were taken to a donation form where they could make a gift. And throughout in the entire year of 2024, this was the fourth highest revenue generator for Boys Town. It was a
Wow.
text that did not ask for a donation, but it raised the fourth highest amount of money for the entire year.
So what's super interesting about this is I just pulled up a text message that I got on Monday from Sandy Hook Promise, and I guess I've also saved it because their logo, I don't know if you guys can see this, their logo's at the top. And this is about asking to sign their petition. And so I'm curious, like looking at this, like how much of this is also because you can sign the petition, but then right above it is also the donate button. Very interesting.
Yep. All right. So, third type of message, milestone celebration. And when somebody becomes a new donor or they sign up for an event or they become a monthly donor, here's the example of Holt International's new monthly donor welcome text. And to the question earlier, you can build a series off of this and have another text that tells a story a week later, something else. So these sort of milestones of when somebody joins a monthly giving program or it's their year anniversary, we can automate those and be able to reach out and let them know and celebrate them. So I think automating text as much as possible for nonprofits is really important to make sure that people reach them at the right moments and celebrate them when they take a big step like becoming a monthly donor or making a gift. So they feel appreciated and they know that you're paying attention, even though behind the scenes it's an automated text.
So cool.
All right, and lastly, before we get into the couple things at the end and then take more questions, fundraising asks. So, what works with fundraising text? This is an example of a text back in December that 1 in 147 people donated, 0.68 conversion rate. Timeliness matters with text messaging. When you can reach somebody closest to the deadline, we find that typically has the highest conversion rate. So texts that go out at 8 p.m. or 8:15 on Giving Tuesday that evening, those tend to raise a lot of money. The evening of December 31st or the evening of a match campaign that you may have of the last day, that's when we see the ROI go up, the conversion rate, the amount raised. So that is certainly one of the best ways to send, as opposed to sending a couple days ahead of a deadline. If you can send in the evening on the last day of the deadline, we see that really leads to the highest conversion rates. When we took a look at this in our text messaging insight report, we actually found 8 to 9 p.m. had the highest conversion rate of any time frame throughout the day, and it also had one of the lowest opt-out rates. So again, closest to the deadline, they open the text quickly, you reach them right before the deadline, they're almost out of time, and people tend to give more often, is what we find.
I think everyone's just sitting on the couch, maybe watching their favorite show, like
Yes.
post-dinner, hanging
Yep.
out,
Yep.
not commuting, like, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, it is because they're after work. They're not on calls like this in front of their computer. They're
Right.
relaxing. The kids are in bed. They've cleaned up after dinner. Another example, San Diego Humane for their Giving Day last year. They had seen pretty good results previously when they had texted earlier in the day, but when they sent a text for their Giving Day last year in the evening, they saw phenomenal results, over a 1% conversion rate, over $41,000 raised in a text just sent to 23,000 donors. And there's a lot that goes into a Giving Day, but sending in the evening closest to the deadline, I think that was a really great way to reach people right before the Giving Day was over.
That's amazing. Nearly $50,000 from a text message. That's
Mhm.
great.
Yep. If you're an emergency organization, getting the text out quickly and reaching your donors when something happens. This was a text from International Medical Corps. When the Turkey earthquake happened a couple years ago, they were able to get the text out quickly. People opened it quickly. This had a 28 times ROI. So if there's major moments, major news events, something that happens related to your organization, text is the first channel that you should turn to get the word out. And especially if it's fundraising related, it's going to do really well. All right, so any questions on fundraising text before we get into the new offers here and then take some additional questions?
I'm trying to see if I missed anything in the ones I had put over. We talked about collecting numbers. Um, Overall, I know at the very beginning I asked a little bit about tracking. Can you talk about more all the different types of tracking capabilities are in the back end?
Yeah, so when you send a text, you can have, let me find an example here. So here's an example of Boys Town. The link in the text, that's a link shortener that's branded to them, but behind the scenes, they have Google Analytics tracking within there so they can have their tracking through Google Analytics. However, if you're a Fundraise Up customer, we do have tracking where if it goes to a Fundraise Up donation form, we can then see in the platform how many donations it resulted in, how much you raised, and that's all in your text messaging report. So you see click-through rate, unsubscribe, amount raised. So this is the URL that the donor sees, but behind the scenes, behind that, it's going to take them to a page where it has UTM parameters behind the scenes for tracking.
Awesome. What are the bulk contact abilities and limitations?
Yeah, so there's not really limitations. We have organizations that text a couple thousand people or 1,000 people. We have organizations that text 800,000 people. So in terms of getting the message
Wow.
out, you're not going to run into your list isn't going to be too big to get the message out and get it out quickly.
Awesome. I love this question from Patricia. What are the demographics who are responding via text?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot that's been said about Gen Z and younger generations, how they respond to text, and that is certainly true. But older generations have been texting for 20 years, 25 years. My parents are 79 and 84, and they've been texting for 10, 15 years. Older generations are very used to using the channel. So it certainly is a top way that generations like Gen Z do prefer to communicate, but older generations are certainly familiar with the channel as well.
Yes, my parents are in their 70s, and my mom sometimes still says "love mom" on every message, but most of the time she just texts is now normal.
Uh,
But she is fully fluent in emojis.
yep.
Um, so Olivia, if you sent it to 23,000, how many were bulk or individual? Not.
So those were all individuals. Those were sent to 23,000 different phone numbers,
Right.
and it was sent out at one time. And so everybody received it around the same time. You can also send by time zone, though. So you have the ability, if you have donors in different time zones, you can, if you want to send to everybody at 8:15 at night, we can do a time zone where people in New York get it at 8:15 Eastern time and people in LA get it at 8:15 West Coast time.
Okay. Okay. Tristan has a detailed one. I'm not sure if I highlight this, how much of it it's going to show. Oh, it does show the whole thing. Okay. So this is around consent.
Mhm.
So through nonprofits express consent, is it still possible to send mass texts, or does the platform require a user to individually click send text one-on-one before we receive express written consent?
So you can reach out to them with express consent in bulk. Let them know that you've launched a text messaging program. The express written consent is needed through the TCPA for-profit companies. Nonprofits just need that express consent that somebody has given them their phone number.
Lucky, lucky. That's amazing. Okay, great. Yeah, time zone, that's awesome. Okay, let me go back to my questions. We have a few minutes left and make sure if there's anything that we have not covered, if you want to go ahead and drop in your questions as Mike, maybe you review again what we talked about with kind of like the beginner packages.
Mhm. Yeah. So these are two new packages that we rolled out so organizations can get started faster, easier. One is $199 per month, where you get 2,000 message credits per month. You get the full SMS platform that we have, fast setup, you get support. Or the other option is $399 per month, where you get 5,000 message credits. That includes the same thing, the full platform, quick setup, and get going, and support. So these are available through the end of June. We're piloting these and rolling these out.
You guys
Um,
are literally the first people to
yes,
hear about
it
this.
is. Yep.
The first ones, and this was off of the Monthly Giving Summit, where before normally the platform, there's a higher tier, and it was like, "We need to come up with something because this audience" you guys were so excited during Mike's session, it's like, "We need to come up with something," and so I was thrilled when so quickly you guys did, and so I am taking advantage of this. I hope you all will take advantage of this and test it out. The link is pinned at the top, and there's a form at the bottom that I think you fill out your information. Mike, what happens when they fill out the form?
Yeah, it's going to go to our team, and our team will be in touch
Okay.
shortly with next steps and how to get started.
Okay. There was a couple integration questions at the beginning.
Mhm.
Do you mind going back to that slide that had your native integrations? And then there's
Yeah.
questions around Donor Perfect, Give Butter, and Keela, I think I saw. And I don't know if those ones you have native integrations with, but I definitely know at least Give Butter and Donor Perfect definitely have Zapier integrations.
Yeah.
Don't know off the top of my head about Keela. And Megan even talked about if Zapier is a little bit too pricey, there might be other integration tools that you can check.
Yeah, we do, and so
Okay.
these are some of the out of the box platforms. We have other nonprofit ones. We do have Zapier. We do have also webhooks available. So sometimes
Yep.
organizations will use webhooks to bring information in or new donor information in as well.
Perfect. How long does this package last?
Yeah, so this goes until the end of June, and here is the QR code that you can scan to go to the page where you can get more information, fill that out to be contacted, and it goes again until June 30th.
So is it if they sign up right now, they could use it March through June?
Oh,
Or do
no,
they
no,
just
no.
have to
I'm
sign up
sorry.
by
Yeah,
June?
I'm sorry. Good question. So once you sign up, then you use the platform moving forward. We're
Okay.
offering these packages, piloting them, rolling them out until the end of June. So once you get started, though, you can use the platform on an ongoing basis, and it usually takes a couple weeks to get signed up and get started and start sending text.
Awesome. Does it require I don't Tristan, I don't think so. Does it require a year or more contract, or is it possible to do a few month test?
That is a good question. I don't work in sales, and I
I'm
don't
pretty
know off
sure
the
from
top of my
talking
head.
to Jeff, I'm pretty
So
sure it's month to month
yeah, I
for
can't
this one.
recall, but we can get that answer for the group and follow up in the Slack channel or follow up in the email afterwards.
Offered until June. How much is it to be able to do MMS? So that's the difference of credits, right?
Yeah, great question. So MMS is going to be 3 credits. SMS is going to be 1 credit. So and certainly using a mix of both is a good way to go, especially for quick reminders. SMS is a great option. We see them often performing really well.
And I am going to test all of this. Hopefully, all of you will join my my phone number list, and I can kind of be your guinea pig, and hopefully you can screenshot some that I send to you. I loved earlier, I think it was Tom who posted about how do you make these sound really personal, and I hope you all feel this way from how I communicate on social and my emails. Like, it is literally me over here writing all of these things, no one else on my team, and so I want them to feel as conversational. So hopefully sign up for my list and you can use my text messages as a test to see if you wanted to read them. Can you also, Mike, speak a little bit to, I don't know if this exists now, but I know it's something I think the team is working on, responses to messages.
Yeah, so you can respond to messages when people reply. You can respond back to them. Right now, it's right within the message report. You see the responses. You can reply to anyone. A lot of the responses are thumbs up or I'm driving, but sometimes a small percentage of the replies are actually questions that you may want to respond to. So you can certainly do that within the platform.
Awesome. I love that. I responded to one the other day where I was like, this is so cool because it was a really great image talking about the impact of a gift that I had made. And I was impressed. Thanks, Karen. We'll definitely join my text list. I promise to try and make it. I am right along with all of you in figuring this out. I will be the guinea pig. And I posted earlier, I'll try and figure out a way, maybe through email, but I asked if people would be down to do a texting planning session and we can all kind of launch together. Like, you know me, I'm all about showing once I have my account set up, I'll go behind the scenes. We can screen share like how I'm setting up things. We can all maybe launch our first text together, our first couple texts together. Um, oh, how do we sign up for my messages? Okay, so Jess, unfortunately, I don't have that for you yet. um, I guess technically, if I'm trying to remember, I'll get back to you. I think I'm probably going to do the email that Mike talked about, where either I get you guys to fill out a form or text a number to a code. Again, I am fully your guinea pig in this experience. I'm going to do what Mike is telling us all to do. And then I will give you all the behind the scenes on how many people opened my email, signed up for the text. Like, I promise to be right along this ride for all of you. Okay, Robin has, and then we are 2 minutes over, and I promise to let everyone go. If you need to jump, feel free. This is recorded. Planning session sounds great. Awesome. Please confirm. So MMS is 3 credits. Yes.
Yes, and
And
SMS is 1 credit
SMS is 1 credit. So 2,000 credits
per month. Yep.
per month would cover 1 MMS message to 666 people per month.
Correct. Or 1 SMS to 2,000 people.
Perfect. So this is a great way to do. I would start with 1, 2 a month. What's like a good, do you think, starting point?
Yeah, I think a couple
Buy more
messages a month
credits.
typically. If you're able to with your credits and your list size, I think it's good to have a ongoing cadence of a couple per month, where maybe one is fundraising, one is non-fundraising.
Yeah.
Is what we typically see.
Can you buy additional credits if you want to?
You can, yes. There's ways to, if you need additional credits in the month, that you can have those. And I don't know all the details on that, but we will send it to you if you fill out the form.
Okay, cool. Yes, Megan, segmenting is going to be important. Totally. I would make sure you have like a quality group of people. I would say like monthly donors would be an interesting group to start with. Beautiful. Yes, Marty, you are here right at the end. We will send a link to the video. Everyone, thank you so, so much for joining us. So many wonderful questions. I will send a replay as soon as this processes to all of you via email. However, once I get text messaging set up, I could send the replay via text message. How cool would that be? This is a very meta presentation. Mike, thank you to you and your team so much. Anything else you wanted to share before we drop?
No, just thanks everybody for your time today, and excited to share this with you, and wish you all the best. And we're gonna be there to help you.
Awesome. Oh, if you want to stick around for 1 second, after June, what are the traditional monthly rates for nonprofits for packages, Mike? Do you know?
So we still have our other packages beyond these couple of starter packages that will still be there. So if you scan the QR code, we can get you all those questions, fill out the form, and any questions you have, we'll be sure to answer.
Cool. Awesome. Mike, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It was so good to see you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.